Welcome to my channel Starwire Daily. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. A dimly lit theater in Austin, Texas. The air is thick with anticipation as one of Hollywood's most respected veterans takes the stage. Christine Baranski, the woman who gave us decades of unforgettable performances, sits before a captivated audience at the ATX TV festival. But what happens next? Well, let's just say she's about to deliver a verbal missile that will travel faster than any rocket ship and hit harder than gravity itself. Welcome back to Starwire Daily, where the tea is always hot and the truth always burns. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into a story that has Hollywood buzzing, space billionaires scrambling, and social media absolutely exploding. This isn't just about a celebrity feud. This is about the very soul of entertainment, the morality of wealth, and a question that's haunting America. When do we start celebrating grotesque displays of excess while the world burns around us? Let's rewind to April 14th, 2025. The world watched in a mixture of awe and horror as 6 women climbed aboard Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin rocket for what was marketed as a groundbreaking, empowering journey to space. Leading this star-studded crew? None other than Sánchez Bezos. Yes, Jeff Bezos' fiancée and a woman whose net worth could fund small countries. Alongside pop superstar Katy, CBS morning show anchor Gayle King, and 3 other accomplished women. The marketing was slick, the messaging was perfect, the first all-female crew since 1963. Empowerment, girl power, breaking barriers. But here's the thing about perfect marketing. Sometimes it's too perfect, and sometimes the most beautiful packaging contains the ugliest truth. For exactly 11 minutes, yes, you heard that right, 11 minutes, these women experienced what Blue Origin calls space travel. 11 minutes that reportedly cost millions of dollars. 11 minutes that generated hours of breathless livestream coverage. 11 minutes that somehow managed to encapsulate everything wrong with celebrity culture, wealth inequality, and our collective obsession with spectacle over substance. But here's where our story really begins. For months later, as the dust settled and the world moved on to other distractions, Christine Baranski, the woman who has portrayed some of television's most complex, powerful, and morally ambiguous characters, decided she had something to say. And when Christine Baranski has something to say, honey, you better listen. Now, Christine isn't just any actress throwing shade at a celebrity publicity stunt. This is a woman who has spent the last few years portraying the ultimate wealthy socialite on HBO's The Gilded Age, where she plays Bertha Russell, a character obsessed with climbing the social ladder through displays of extravagant wealth. The irony? Absolutely delicious. The timing? Absolutely perfect. At that ATX TV festival panel, Christine was supposed to be discussing her HBO series, talking about how wealth and power are portrayed on television. But Christine Baranski has never been one to stick to the script when there's a more important truth to be told. She pivoted, and she pivoted hard. According to multiple sources who were in that Austin theater, Christine didn't just critique the Blue Origin flight. She eviscerated it. She questioned the entire premise, the messaging, and most cutting of all, the priorities it represented. And then came the moment that would launch 1,000 headlines and probably cause some very uncomfortable phone calls in certain Beverly Hills mansions. Christine allegedly asked, and I'm paraphrasing the reported sentiment here, what exactly was the point? Was this truly about scientific advancement and women's empowerment, or was it simply an elaborate, expensive photo opportunity so they can do their makeup? The question that reportedly left the audience stunned and the internet ablaze. But let's dig deeper, because this story isn't really about Christine Baranski versus a space flight. This is about something much more profound, much more troubling, and much more revealing about where we are as a society in 2025. The Blue Origin flight wasn't just criticized by Christine. Critics, including Olivia Wilde, Amy Schumer, and Emily Ratajkowski, questioned the need for the mission, suggesting that the flight was little more than a vain publicity stunt. Social media erupted with commentary ranging from mild eye rolls to outright disgust. The backlash was swift, it was brutal, and it was widespread. But here's what makes Christine's critique so much more powerful. She's not coming at this as a jealous outsider or a social media warrior looking for clicks. She's coming at this as someone who understands power, who has studied it, who has portrayed it in its most raw and unfiltered form. When you've spent years embodying the mindset of America's gilded elite, you recognize the patterns. You see through the veneer. Think about it. Christine spends her days on the Gilded Age, portraying a character whose every action is calculated to display wealth and status. She understands the psychology, the motivation, the desperate need for validation that drives people to spend obscene amounts of money on gestures designed purely for public consumption. She's literally paid to understand this mindset, and she's telling us that what she sees in real life makes her television character look subtle by comparison. And that's terrifying. Now, let's talk about the women who took this flight, because this isn't about tearing down successful women. This is about examining the choices that successful women make and what those choices say about our values as a society. Sánchez Bezos isn't just wealthy. She's connected to one of the richest men in human history. Her engagement to Jeff Bezos automatically places her in a stratosphere of privilege that most people can't even comprehend. Katy Perry, despite her recent career struggles, remains a multi-millionaire with global influence. Gayle King anchors one of television's most prestigious morning shows and moves in circles that most people only dream of accessing. These aren't ordinary women breaking barriers. These are women who already had every barrier broken for them by virtue of their wealth, connections, and status. So when a marketing machine tried to frame their 11-minute joyride as some kind of feminist triumph, is it any wonder that people saw right through it? It was one thing to understand intellectually that Katy Perry, Gayle King, and Sánchez's much-hyped all-female trip to space aboard a Blue Origin rocket would in actuality only be an underwhelming 11 minutes long. But it was another to watch it play out over a multi-hour, breathless live stream that culminated with Perry kissing the earth like a soldier returning from war and not a multimillionaire returning from an expensive vacation. The optics were frankly absurd. The disconnect between the gravity of the moment they were trying to create and the reality of what actually happened was so stark that it felt almost satirical. And Christine Baranski, a woman who has built her career on understanding subtext, on reading between the lines, on seeing what others miss, she called it exactly what it was. But here's where this story gets really juicy, really complex, and really uncomfortable for everyone involved. The backlash to Christine's comments has been swift and defensive. The widespread backlash and criticism to Blue Origin's all-women trip to space came to the surprise of crew members. They genuinely seemed shocked that people weren't celebrating their achievement. And that disconnect, that genuine surprise that the public didn't embrace their expensive adventure, that might be the most revealing part of this entire story. It suggests a level of privilege so complete, so insulating, that they couldn't even conceive of how their actions might be perceived by people struggling with rent, healthcare, and basic survival. This is 2025, people. We're living in a world where income inequality has reached levels not seen since. Wait for it, the actual Gilded Age. We're watching climate change ravage communities while billionaires literally shoot themselves into space for fun. We're seeing families choose between medical care and housing while celebrities spend millions on 11-minute thrill rides. And Christine Baranski, the woman who portrays the epitome of Gilded Age excess on television, is telling us that the real thing is even worse than fiction. Let that sink in for a moment. Now, let's be fair here. The women on that Blue Origin flight aren't evil. They're not sitting in boardrooms plotting the downfall of humanity. Sánchez Bezos has done philanthropic work. Katy Perry has supported various charitable causes. Gayle King is a respected journalist who has covered important stories. But intent doesn't always align with impact, and impact doesn't always align with optics. And in a world where optics increasingly drive reality, where social media narratives can make or break careers, where public perception shapes everything from stock prices to political outcomes, the optics of this spaceflight were catastrophically tone-deaf. Christine Baranski understood this instinctively. She saw the same thing that millions of regular people saw: wealthy individuals using their resources for personal pleasure while framing it as some kind of public service or historical achievement. She saw the emperor's new clothes, and she wasn't afraid to point out the nakedness. And the entertainment industry is taking notice. Christine's comments have sparked conversations in Hollywood about celebrity responsibility, about the ethics of extreme wealth, about what it means to be a role model in an era of unprecedented inequality. These are conversations that needed to happen, and it took someone with Christine's gravitas, intelligence, and fearlessness to start them. There's something poetic about the fact that this critique is coming from Christine Baranski specifically. Here's a woman who has spent decades in an industry obsessed with youth, beauty, and marketability, yet she's carved out a career based on intelligence, talent, and authenticity. She's not trying to extend her 15 minutes of fame. She's already had several lifetimes' worth. She's not looking for attention. She already commands respect from peers and audiences alike. When someone like Christine Baranski speaks out, it carries weight because it comes from a place of security and wisdom rather than desperation and publicity seeking. She's not punching up or punching down. She's speaking from a position of established authority about issues that matter to her. And let's talk about the elephant in the room: the gender dynamics of this entire situation. The Blue Origin flight was marketed heavily around female empowerment, around breaking barriers, around inspiring young girls. But what message does it actually send when female empowerment looks like wealthy women spending millions on personal adventures while calling it activism? Christine's critique cuts right to the heart of this contradiction. Real female empowerment might look like using those millions to fund education, healthcare, research, or any number of causes that actually advance women's status in society. Real barrier breaking might involve creating opportunities for women who don't already have access to unlimited resources. The space flight, despite its marketing, reinforced existing power structures rather than challenging them. It celebrated wealth and access rather than merit and achievement. And Christine, with her characteristic razor-sharp insight, saw right through the progressive packaging to the regressive core. You know what makes this story even more compelling? Christine Baranski herself embodies the kind of female empowerment that actually matters. She's built a career on talent and intelligence rather than connections and wealth. She's chosen complex, challenging roles rather than easy, marketable ones. She's used her platform to speak truth rather than to promote brands or causes that benefit her personally. When someone like Christine criticizes someone like Sánchez, Bezos, or Katy Perry, it's not jealousy or bitterness, it's disappointment. It's the disappointment of someone who has fought for meaningful representation, seeing that representation cheapened by flashy but empty gestures. And the timing of Christine's comments makes them even more powerful. Christine Baranski attended the ATX TV Festival in Austin, Texas on Monday, August 11th, for a Gilded Age panel, where she discussed how wealth is depicted on TV. She was literally there to discuss her portrayal of fictional wealth, and she couldn't help but contrast it with the very real, very problematic displays of wealth she was seeing in her own industry. The irony is almost too perfect. Christine plays a character obsessed with status and display, but she's grown to understand that character well enough to recognize when real life surpasses fiction in its absurdity. Life imitating art, imitating life in the most uncomfortable way possible. This is bigger than celebrity gossip, people. This is about the narratives we accept, the behaviors we celebrate, and the values we promote as a society. When we cheer for wealthy people to spend millions on personal adventures while framing those adventures as achievements, what are we really saying about our priorities? Christine Baranski is asking the questions that need to be asked. What constitutes real achievement? What deserves celebration? How do we distinguish between genuine progress and expensive public relations? These are the questions that matter, and they're the questions that make people in positions of privilege extremely uncomfortable. Now, the fallout from Christine's comments is still unfolding. Social media is divided, as always, between those who see her as a truth-telling hero and those who view her comments as unnecessarily harsh. The spaceflight participants haven't directly responded to Christine specifically, but their previous defenses of the mission suggest they're not particularly interested in engaging with criticism. And maybe that's the most telling part of all. When faced with legitimate questions about priorities, messaging, and social responsibility, the response has been defensiveness rather than reflection. It's easier to dismiss critics as jealous or misinformed than to grapple with the possibility that maybe, just maybe, they have a point. Christine Baranski has given us a gift. She's articulated something that many people were feeling but couldn't quite express. She's provided vocabulary for our discomfort, framework for our criticism, and validation for our instincts. When something feels wrong, when the marketing doesn't match the reality, when a message doesn't align with the medium, she's shown us that it's okay to call that out. The entertainment industry needs more Christine Baranskis. People who are secure enough in their success to speak uncomfortable truths, intelligent enough to see through spin, and brave enough to risk backlash for the sake of authenticity. We need voices that prioritize substance over spectacle, meaning over marketing, truth over trending. In a world where celebrity culture often feels like an elaborate shell game, where wealth inequality continues to grow while being disguised as aspiration, where genuine achievement gets drowned out by expensive publicity stunts, Christine Baranski stands as a reminder of what real gravitas looks like. She's not trying to tear anyone down. She's not seeking attention or stirring drama for its own sake. She's simply using her platform and her intelligence to point out contradictions that matter, to ask questions that need asking, to challenge narratives that deserve challenging. And whether you agree with her specific criticisms or not, you have to admire the courage it takes to speak truth to power, especially when that power includes some of the wealthiest, most connected people in the world. The Blue Origin space flight will be forgotten soon enough. Celebrity publicity stunts always are. But the questions Christine Baranski has raised about wealth, responsibility, authenticity, and values, those questions will linger. They should linger. They need to linger. Because at the end of the day, this isn't really about space travel or celebrity gossip or entertainment industry drama. This is about who we are as a society, what we value, what we celebrate, and what we're willing to accept as normal. Christine Baranski has held up a mirror to our culture, and she's asking us to take a long, hard look at what we see reflected there. The question is, are we brave enough to really look? Are we honest enough to acknowledge what we see? And are we strong enough to demand better? So what do you think? Is Christine Baranski a truth-telling hero calling out the absurdities of extreme wealth? Or is she being unnecessarily harsh on women who are simply enjoying the privileges their success has afforded them? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. But remember, let's keep it respectful and thoughtful. This is about more than just celebrity drama. This is about the kind of world we want to live in and the values we want to promote. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's latest controversy, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps us reach more people who are hungry for authentic, thoughtful entertainment coverage. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell, because at StarWire Daily, we're committed to bringing you the stories that matter, told with the depth and honesty they deserve. Until next time, keep questioning, keep thinking, and keep demanding better from the celebrities and culture that shape our world. This has been StarWire Daily. And remember, the truth is always more interesting than the spin.